is back, everybody. Philanthropy in Focus, the nonprofit sector connector. That's what I call myself. It's a nickname. I'm big on nicknames. They also call me Tommy D. And I tell myself, and I tell other people, they call me the kid. And then my kids go, Dad, no one calls you that. And I say, but I call myself that. And that's the thing. Listen, gang, it's all about laughing. It's all about having fun. And if we can laugh about ourselves, which I tend to like to do, then I think we don't take ourselves too seriously. But I will just put some gratitude out there for the folks in this community, specifically the nonprofit sector, as I like to spend my time with all these folks, and really just the gratitude that I get to hang out with people who are changing the world each and every day. And that's a big deal. And I was at a Kiwanis meeting just about a week and a half ago, and they asked me to be the speaker. And, it wasn't like, hey, teach us something. It was just come up and tell us about the stuff you're doing in the world. And, it's when I speak at a Rotary or I speak at a Kiwanis, it's like, wow, I'm blessed to be able to hang out with people who are doing the important work. I say this, there's a ton of stuff that's negative in the world. And if you're looking for it, you can go find it. It's there, man. Go there if you want to. I choose not to. I choose our sector. I choose friends like my friend and fellow fan of the New York Metropolitans, Dr. Christopher Rosa. Chris Rosa, what is up, sir? How are you?
How are you, Tommy? It's great to see you. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but behind your back in the nonprofit sector, we all call you the kid, especially when you're wearing your Met cap. You remind us with your exuberance of Gary Carter and his prime.
Oh, look at that, like Kid Carter. Oh my goodness. You know who I've met recently, and I understand, actually, I know for a fact, he was just recently at one of your events, is Mookie Wilson. I met Mookie a couple weeks, or actually back in March, through the Queen's Chamber of Commerce. He was there at the St. Patrick's Day event. I didn't know Mookie Wilson was Irish, but now now maybe we know. But I know I was talking to our friend and your employee and colleague, Lauren Marzo, and the Mookie has like a food truck business. So right, what was that? You got to hang out with Mookie a little bit?
Oh, it's just for lifelong Met fans, it's a thrill of a lifetime. He is a truly a gentle soul, and he's a great chef.
Yeah.
The barbecue was phenomenal. People loved it. I loved it, and like what it was a thrill as a lifelong Met fan. I grew up with Mook, and when they started to regain their relevance, and it was all
That's
about him.
Yeah, it was so great. And so I was born in 78, so in 86, that makes me eight, something like that, whatever. Going on nine in the January of the next year. And I remember being like in my parents' kitchen in the house, the same house they still live in, with a little TV like on the kitchen table and watching some of those games, man. And like my friend and business partner Ed Probst, one of the founding partners of Vanguard Benefits, our agency, big Met fan, and I always give him the business about being, about 10, 11 years older than I am. Maybe it's 9 or 10. And I always give him and our other partner, Vinny, the business because they're more advanced in years. But Ed was at some of those games, in 86. I was a baby boy. I was a kid. I remember this stuff as best you can from that age. But as I look, it's funny, I look right here. So here's a picture of four of the pitchers from that team, right? And then over there, I have this great shot. You all can't see it, but you have to imagine. I'll tell you this because all my nonprofit people know this story. So, Chris, they don't know this specific story, but they're going to know the punchline. So, I'm at an event. There's this picture of Doc, Daryl, and Mike Tyson. They all got the. Have you seen this one? You know
They
this.
have.
So they got the satin jackets on, right? And all the Yankee fans are like, Tommy D, come on, move on. And my friend Mick Collins, who's down in Baltimore, who's named after Mickey Mantle, is like, Tommy D, enough with the Met stuff. Mick, change the channel, baby, if you don't like it. So my wife put down on the silent auction an amount. It was like whatever the minimum was. I go, we're going home with that. And she goes, she doesn't know that like sometimes the silent auction doesn't go like bonkers. And this particular event, they had like 15 different things going on. There was the casino, there was the silent auction, there was a dance party. They brought two rappers there from like the 90s, and it was great. Great, like if you have ADHD, it was wonderful. But if you if she thought she wasn't going to go home with that piece, which now is in the attic with me, it's those memories of those Mets teams. But I gave Mookie a hard time, I got to tell you, when I saw him at the Queen's Chamber of St. Patrick's Day, because I was chatting with him, and I'm 47, and he isn't.
He's not.
He's not. And I go, and we took a picture together. I go, dude. we look like we're the same age. I go, this isn't even fair. Like same, like a little bit of white in a goatee kind of thing. And I'm going, I said, this isn't fair, Mookie. You've lived a much more relaxed life apparently than I have.
And like you, he is in phenomenal physical shape. Looks like you could still get out there.
Oh, look at you. Oh my God. Wow. The compliments. I appreciate it. Great physical shape. You should see when I can't run around the street with my kids, how great physical shape I'm in. Listen, Chris, I'm so happy. Even just the conversation we were having before we turned the cameras rolling today, conversation you and I had earlier in the week, I see such opportunity. We're going to do some great things together. And I mentioned, J July 26th, we will be at the ballpark and talk to another friend and colleague of mine who you may or may not know, but our buddy Mike Durney, who's the CEO of ACDS, is going to join us with a friend at the game on the 22nd. So that's shout out, guys. That's through the Bayside Business Association. Reach out to me, Tommy D, at philanthropyandfocus.com if you want to learn more about that, or go to Bayside Business Association website. And PHOCUS if you don't know how to spell focus yet, gang. So it's just bringing people together, making those relationships. But I really appreciate, I was telling somebody this the other night. What I've created with this platform, Philanthropy and Focus, over 210 episodes, and the other stuff I'm doing is I've created this opportunity where my friends, Yolanda Rabano Gross, Mike Durney, Chris Rosa, right? Jeff Reynolds, I'm on the phone, Dr. Jeff Reynolds yesterday making an introduction. These are my friends who lead and it isn't just the bigs. It's, I hang out with the CEOs who run the $70,000 nonprofit here on Long Island, and goes to how I started the show too, Chris. Like, we make choices in life and we get to choose who we want to spend our time with. And I get to say and text message with people who lead important organizations, and I get to say that they're my friends. And I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for that.
And Tommy, it's a blessing for us. There we feel important work for meet people where they are in the hearts of their community, and there's a tendency for us, as much as that's a very meaningful endeavor, to get isolated from each other. And as the nonprofit sector connector, you're the fabric of a true community. It means something tangible because of the work that you do. So we're grateful for you.
And I'm thank you, and I'm doing better at becoming grateful and realizing that. Like I used to say, it's no big deal, Rosa. It's what I do. No, no, I know it's a big deal, and I appreciate your gratitude. And now I can't hug you right now, but you're making me cry on my own show. We haven't even got out of the first segment. I'm already a mush. Let's get into your story, because we had such a cool chat just now about your predecessor who led the organization, and I loved what you said before we got started. It's a network of nonprofit organizations, is Viscardi, going back to Dr. Henry Viscardi and Abilities Inc. But we talked about how you had a connection to somebody you refer to as an icon, John
Correct.
Kemp, right?
And yeah, and that thanks for always remembering him, because he left an indelible impression on our organization, and in the hearts of the individuals we serve. But John Kemp is an unequivocal disability rights hero and icon. And I'm about a decade behind him, and I'm a decade behind that generation that really changed things in the United States for people with disabilities. John is a legendary disability rights leader and activist. His grassroots effort really ultimately helped to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act, which now for 35 years has created the expectation that Americans with disabilities will fully participate in all aspects of American life. And so I looked up to him with awe and wonder, but never imagined that I'd get to meet him. But it was my work at City University of New York, where where CUNY is the largest public urban university system in the world. It enrolls more than 250,000 students, including more than 11,000 students with disabilities, and which is always my sphere of content expertise and my real passion. And it just so happened that I got an unsolicited call from my hero, John Kemp. I had all I could do to keep it together, but it turned out that some Henry Viscardi School students, who are brilliant in their own regard, but need intensive wraparound services were coming to some of our CUNY campuses. And John was reaching out to me to ask, what can we do to sort of replicate that holistic approach at Viscardi at some of our CUNY campuses to ensure that our students would succeed? And I wanted to do it, A, because, you don't want to let your hero down. But B, I got to meet these students and they were brilliant. And I felt like they deserved equal access and opportunity to transform their lives through the power and the promise of higher education. And together we did a good job. You do that a handful of times, suddenly you become a street hero, on the streets of New York City. And based on that, John extended me a very humbling invitation for me to join the Henry Viscardi School Board, which I eagerly accepted. And I felt proud to do work to make sure that generations of Viscardi students, classes of them for 4 years, got to go on and pursue their dreams in college and beyond. And during the heart of COVID, John, like so many of us, had a reckoning and said, as much as I love this, I'm from the South, I'm from Alabama, I'm a Yankee up here, and there comes a time when you have to go home. And as much as he didn't want to leave this at all, I think he felt like it was time. And in that vacuum, I was honored that the board looked among them. To their credit, they felt like an organization like Viscardi ought to be led by somebody with the lived experience of disability. And I'm a wheelchair user. I've been using a wheelchair since 1976. It's a lot of years in the saddle at age 58. And because of that, it kind of made me uniquely positioned to give it a go. And I haven't looked back. It's been the greatest personal and professional thrill of my life to work here at the Viscardi Center.
I love it. I love it. We're going to get so into all this stuff today, man. And we usually start with your background, but what a great thing that was to just bring up John Kemp and how that story really unfolded. I tell you, I didn't know all of that. I had been involved in some committees and was, I guess, informed earlier, maybe not early on in the process, because I was on a committee, I think it was for Sports Night a number of years ago. So an email came out about John moving on. And it's so funny because you say icon, you say hero. John would probably not think he should be anybody's icon or hero, right? And I think of you in that regard as an icon and a
Thank
hero. So yeah, I mean it, man. And that's the stuff about it. But I remember when I had John on the show, I told you earlier, he had met Dr. Viscardi, which we got to get into Dr. Viscardi's story today.
you.
But we had met him as when John was a child, and it's just you say Mount Rushmore is I think how you referred to John earlier. So we're going to get into all the stuff about Viscardi and the network of organizations and the work. And what I like when I come to the center there, there's the Dr. Viscardi's office is still set. I assume it is. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but
It's
Lauren Marzo and I would walk by and great stories and stuff. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I thank you for remembering that. So we're blessed to have Dr. Viscardi's office intact as he left it in 2004. And it's a living reminder of our disability rights legacy here at Viscardi. Dr. Viscardi passed away, but he's still very much with us every day in the fabric of our work and our approach to empowering people with disabilities. But we also have that history, the artifacts that tell a really powerful story about the life of a true American hero. And strategically, they put his office right opposite my office, as if I don't have enough pressure every day coming into work. I have to pass that. I hold my head in shame and slink off into mine, trying desperately not to screw it up that day.
You're the best. You
But
are
it,
so
it
great, man.
keeps you humble. But if I might, Tommy, just it's a nice segue into one of our latest initiatives and something that holds great promise for us. So when I got here, I was very impressed by how we cherish disability history, and we utilize it to help the people that we serve, kids and adults, to develop empowered identities that are very proud of their history and their identity as people with disabilities. And because of that ethos, when we got word that the National Museum of Disability History, which had been in Buffalo, and it was a glorious collection in Buffalo for 22 years, when it was forced to close its doors during the pandemic, I reached out, told them a little bit about our existing commitment to history, and said, would you ever consider moving the collection to Long Island? It took about a year's worth of negotiation, but we acquired the collection. We were able to raise from lots of different sources $2.2 million to renovate 4,000 square feet of our own space. And in October, everybody should stay tuned. We're opening the National Museum of Disability History right here in the heart of Long Island on the campus of the Viscardi Center.
Wow. I will be there no matter what. And
we can't wait to have you.
100%. We'll make it a party for sure. That's so important. And it is history that we must reflect on where we've come from. And, I have, maybe we'll get into, I have several family members who have disabilities and physical and or otherwise. And it's my one cousin who actually attended the Viscardi School many, many years ago. We were at an event together. It was like at a VFW or Knights of Columbus, and it wasn't accessible. This wasn't 20 years ago. This was 20 months ago. And it was just, and she told me, Tommy D, this happens, and again, I get up on the soapbox, Chris, but I mean, the ADA was not last week, right? I mean, this is a long time coming, and it's still, we're not there 100% still, right?
Yeah, no, we're not there. And your own story underscores how important vigilance is, certainly for the American disability rights community, but for our communities in general who really value full participation and inclusion. I'm proud, though, that a place like the Viscardi Center exists to speak to that also very cherished and valued nonprofit resource on how they might very easily remove that barrier.
Yeah.
So everybody could participate.
I might have to, I'm not going to say what town that place was, and I don't remember if it was a Knights or a VFW or whatever it was, but I remember being cranky and frustrated. That part I remember. But we might have to be informative. And I know something I've had Mike Caprera on a show from your team and talking about accessibility on websites and things like that. And you all provide such resources. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. I want to do it this way. I want to hear your story, and then we'll flip back. We're going to which is perfect for the way my brain works. We'll bounce all over the place, so we'll get back to who is Chris Rosa, what's your youth coming up in CUNY and all that sort of stuff, and then we'll get all back into the Viscardi stuff. How's that sound for you?
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
We will be right back. Chris and Tommy D in the attic.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Is Right. Just earlier this week, I was talking to my friend Chris Rosa, and I was telling him about a buddy of mine who is in a band, and the name of the band is Damaged Goods. And one night we're gonna go see them. The singer of the song you just heard is my buddy Brendan Levy, who I was on a phone call with this morning. That's my friend Brendan from the Queen's Chamber of Commerce.
He's a great leader, and who knew he has great pipes.
He's got great pipes, and I tell him that I was on a meeting with him and the leadership team from Tuesday's Children, which is a nonprofit, came out of.
It's a great organization.
So I had Becky Rossman on the show a couple weeks ago, the CEO, and I was connecting her and some of her team with Brendan in the chamber just 2 days, I think probably Wednesday this week. And, because I'm me and I'm Tommy D and I got the love, I just want to let you know, this guy, he is the vice president of business development for the chamber, but he's also the lead singer of the band Damaged Goods. And he's like embarrassed. I'm like, Brendan, this is it. We are who we are and all this stuff, man. And he's trying to be like buttoned up businessman. And I'm like, no, you're a rock and roll star, man. So
He is. He truly is.
we wrote that song together. We wrote the lyrics together. I didn't sing it, although if you call me later on, Chris, one of my kids left that as a voicemail. Like that's my outgoing message is one of my daughters singing that. And I can't delete it. I worry it's not professional enough, and then I remember who I am and I go, it's exactly what it should be, So
I agree. It makes you that much more accessible.
100%. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. So who is Chris Rosa? I don't know the story. I know CUNY, obviously we know the Viscardi story. You mentioned you've been in a wheelchair since 1976. I don't even really know your story, sir.
Sure. No, thank you for asking. I think particularly looking at the arc of my own personal history from a disability-centered perspective, which is a big part of my identity, what I value, who I am. My life is a testament to the slogan, "It's better to be lucky than good." It helps when you're both, but I've definitely been very fortunate. Timing is everything, and I was born in 1967, and I was diagnosed early on with a form of muscular dystrophy at age 5, and I was entering kindergarten in 1972, which was only a year or two before the implementation of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the IDEA, which required, now we all know, IEPs to create meaningful plans that will ensure that students with disabilities will be fully included in their educational experiences and will be successful. And in those early days, nobody really understood the full implications of the IDEA. Very few people had ever heard of it, but my mom and dad were loving parents, were not disability rights activists. I don't know that they knew very many people with disabilities, but they had a son with a disability, and they refused to allow me to be denied any aspect of the educational experience. And so they leveraged this newfound law to make sure that I would be able to fully participate alongside my neighbors, my friends, and to be fully included in New York City public education. So I'm a proud product of New York City public education, PS 163 in Flushing, IS 237 also in Flushing, the Rachel Carson Intermediate School, and Francis Lewis High School in Queens. When it came time for me to go to college, I was fortunate, again, a function of being my age. The Rehabilitation Act already had more than a decade of traction, where higher education institutions had already been compelled to figure out how to create equal access and opportunity for students with disabilities. And I really rode that wave. I stayed local at Queens College, my alma mater, and I loved it. And it was where, for the first time, I got introduced to a diverse, vibrant community of other people my age with disabilities. And for the first time, I understood that it was part of something bigger than myself, that I was part of a burgeoning American disability community, and more importantly, a burgeoning American disability rights movement. And as I entered my junior and senior years in 88 and 89, the American disability rights movement was really activated and mobilized around the passage of this bill, which would later be known as the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so, by virtue of being on a college campus, which was a hotbed of activism, and the activism was around my issue, which was unique. And so I got firsthand the opportunity to learn about raising my voice for justice, about empowering others, but also deriving great pride and joy and affirmation in loving and developing friendships among people like myself. And so I graduated, but equally and more importantly, I was part of a movement, grassroots, that ultimately led to the passage of the ADA in 1990. And that law has changed the opportunity and life for 62 million Americans with disabilities since then. I cared about and was so inspired by this that I changed my career plans. Instead of, I thought I was going to be an attorney, a disability rights attorney, which would have been a really cool opportunity. But I was more enthralled by the fact that I discovered these dimensions of my identity that I that I didn't really know were possible until I met my community, and I realized that my community had a distinct way of understanding what it meant to be an American with a disability that was qualitatively different than the perception of people with disabilities in mainstream contemporary American culture. And so I went to graduate school in the doctoral program in sociology to study this new thing, this emerging thing, American disability culture. And I got a chance to study it, to write about it, to publish about it, to teach about it. And so it's been really important, formatively for me, not who I am as a person, but who I am as a professional. My greatest asset is my understanding of the lived experience of disability from the distinctive perspective of people with disabilities themselves. And I thought I was going to be a faculty member somewhere at a college or a university, continuing my research and studying it. But my alma mater reached out a few years in and said, hey, we have an important opening in our Office of Disability Services. We know you, we know your work. We'd love for you to come back home and to lead the office. And it was an offer I couldn't refuse. It's the place that I cherished the most. And, I was able to come back home to Queens College and work, but it also gave me exposure to leaders in the higher ed community who understood the importance of access and opportunity for people with disabilities, but understood that the leadership competencies that I had to put into play every day to be successful had portability and could make an impact across the university, serving a really diverse community of student learners. And a place like CUNY, with 250,000 students, the majority of them first generation, many of them new immigrants. That was a humbling opportunity, but I was blessed to work at a place where they valued diversity and inclusion. And it gave me successively responsible leadership experiences and opportunity. And ultimately, I was appointed as the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs for CUNY's system administration. And so that was a really humbling experience. And ultimately, it positioned me to come back home or to the disability community through this connection with the Viscardi Center.
Yeah. Wow. Well, how long were you at CUNY as in administration?
As an employee of CUNY, I worked there for 27 years. So I had a pretty good run there. And honestly, I never saw myself as leaving. I always figured one of these guys who would, you'd find me at my desk someday,
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That would be it. But something remarkable happened. I told you among those 250,000 students at CUNY were 11,000 students with disabilities who, as you know, are my heart. And I look for any and all opportunity to keep connected with them and promoting their success. And I mentioned my hero, John Kemp, one day just reached out to me and said, we have some Henry Viscardi School students who are brilliant,
Yeah.
but they need kind of intensive wraparound support on some of your campuses. What can you do for us? And I didn't know. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about it, but I cared enough to try.
Yeah.
And we were able to make sure that they had what they needed in the spirit of the Viscardi Center. They went on to be successful. And I was able to do this over a couple of years. And it gave me a reputation on the street. And ultimately, got me an invitation to serve on the Viscardi board.
Yeah.
And when John transitioned to his career back home down south, I'm still blown away that that the board extended me the opportunity to continue that great legacy, and I've never looked back.
I love it. How long have you been in this role now?
I'm in the middle of my fourth year.
That feels like quick, but does it feel quick for you?
Oh man, in a heartbeat. Like
Yeah.
I still feel like the new guy.
Yeah, I love it. Look, I before we go to break, one thing I wanted to say, and I say this a lot on this show, listen, gang, I'm not saying everybody should be college bound. I'm not big on saying everybody needs to go. When you have 4 children, people go, wait till you get the college bills. Hey, listen, man, if all 4 of my kids are college bound, we'll get them there, we'll get them through, we'll get them where they need to be. And if they're not, and if they want to go into the trades or they want to be different things, there's that too. So, but I want to say, I put that there to just say to you, the SUNY and CUNY systems, man, what jewels they are. What
They
jewels they are.
they are the greatest value in American higher education. And your point, Tommy, the data bear it out. I mean, not only do we know that the graduates end up being civically minded, remarkably well developed humans who go on to successful careers. The data show that over the course of their lifetime, college graduates will earn more than $1 million more than people who do not graduate from college. That may be fair or unfair, but that's what the data tell
It's
us.
just data. Yeah, and I will tell you, I was on a 6-year plan, so I went to after I graduated from Chaminade, not too far from the Viscardi campus, I went to Nassau Community College, and then went to Baruch. And at the time, I was a bartender in my uncle's place. Shout out to my uncle Joe, a place called Halligan's in Floral Park. And I met my wife there, so there's a lot of good things that came out of that bar. And there's other things that, have been, now being sober for almost 15 years, you can imagine there wasn't such great things that came out of that bar, but I met a lot of cool people. And then I was trying to go to Baruch at the same time while I was tending bar. But when you go home at 4 a.m., Dr. Rosa, and you have a 7 o'clock calculus class and you live in Franklin Square and the school is in Manhattan, it wasn't exactly a good look. So that I didn't finish there. Eventually, they asked me to make room for someone else, is what I'm saying to you.
The point is, I misspoke. It's people who have gone to college who
Oh,
earn more than $1 million. And it's not about, we obviously everybody likes to complete, but the lessons that you learn there and the
yeah.
skills transcend like arbitrary beginnings and ends, so.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, the full arc for me was I finished up out here at SUNY Old Westbury. So you went SUNY, Nassau, right? CUNY for a bit, and that I don't regret a lot. But Baruch has such a great name, such great recognition. Having not finished there it's kind of a miss. But that's
SUNY Old Westbury is a remarkable place. It's one of the most diverse student communities on the planet. President Tim Sams is just a transformational leader, and
Yeah.
we're so proud that he is committed to help us to grow our inclusive higher education program at SUNY Old Westbury in partnership with Viscardi.
love that.
And what that is, just I know that you're
Yeah, we're good.
watching the clock, but it's an opportunity for people with intellectual disabilities on a individualized curriculum to go to college and to learn to pursue learning outcomes that are important to their own vision, to career and independent living, but also to experience the remarkable connection that you get through campus life.
Yeah.
And that's how, I mean, to the extent that I've grown up at all, I attribute it all to the formative experiences I had in college. And we're hoping for the same thing for people with intellectual disabilities. And that's happening at SUNY Westbury. We
It's
also
a
have a great program at Nassau Community College.
Same. And I'll tell you this, we'll close this segment with one last piece. I happened to be at NASA a couple weeks ago visiting with some friends from Nosh, which is a food pantry right on the campus, and we were outside and I met the new president there, and I'm telling them, so I went here, I graduated high school in 96. I went here, and then I don't know if you knew Dr. Calvin Butts, but I graduated from Old Westbury, so I'm walking across the stage, right? And Dr. Butts reaches over, famous icon, right? Dr. Butts reaches out his hand to give me a shake. I go, none of that, sir. And I just grab him and give him a big old bear hug on the stage at my graduation from Old Westbury. The gentleman I'm talking about, whose name escapes me over at Nassau, Dr. Butts was his mentor. So it's all connected. We'll have to figure out who all these players are.
And President Maria Consati is just really a transformational leader.
Yeah, so special. So just the jewel of CUNY and SUNY for sure. Really I don't know if it's underrated, but just enough people are not aware of those assets that we have. We do have to go to a quick break. We'll have couple short segments because Tommy D doesn't stop talking and doesn't always take breaks on time, but that's part of the beauty of this show. Dr. Rosa and Tommy D will be right back to talk about Viscardi. Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Phocus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Through the static, man. The website is viscardicenter.org. VISCARDI center.org for those of you who are not watching the video that I'm sharing the website right now. This coming Thursday, Chris, I'm the MC at a movie premiere out in Riverhead for a movie called Warrior, which is Warrior's the name of a horse, but it's in collaboration with Warrior Ranch Foundation. So I'm gonna get you the details if it's something, you come as my guest. There's a little bit of a VIP, the whole thing.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. It's at the Suffolk out in Riverhead, but it comes up for me to think about because there's a spot on the website relating to veterans. So why don't we sort of tell this story? I mean, I know the term Abilities Inc. I know this was, and correct me if I'm mistaken here, but Dr. Henry Viscardi started this as what I would consider social enterprise before, right? We're having vocational things involved. I think
Absolutely.
before people said social enterprise, before that was a thing, right?
That's correct, Tommy. And the connection to veterans is at the heart of our inception. Just a little bit about Dr. Viscardi. He was born in 1912 to a first-generation Italian family that settled in Manhattan. They were poor, and Dr. Viscardi had a congenital disability. He was born with underdeveloped legs. His own description was, I had stumps for legs. And because the family was poor and healthcare wasn't readily available in the early part of the 20th century, it was long before the Medicaid and Medicare were created, during the New Deal. Dr. Viscardi's only recourse was to walk on his hands. And he did so up until he was 12 years old. He had the good fortune of meeting a physician who saw something in him, was inspired by him, like so many people would come to be throughout the course of his life, and said, if I could fashion prosthetics that could really transform your life. It would give you the opportunity to be much more mobile and independent. And sheepishly, Dr. Viscardi said, my family doesn't really have the resources to pay for it. And the doctor didn't hesitate. He said, I'll get them to you. And if you grow up to impact the life of one other person like yourself, consider us even, paid in full. And I think that really was a formative experience for him. And I think in part it shaped what would be his life's work, which is empowering others with disabilities. In 1941, he was a brilliant student, and college for people with disabilities was unheard of in the 30s and 40s. So he went to work because of his winning personality, much like yours, Tommy. He entered a career in sales. And he was really just knocking it out of the park each and every time. And when the U.S. entered the war, World War II in 1941, patriotic, grateful for what the United States had created for him, he tried to enlist. Of course, he was declared 4F because of his disability, but went to work as a volunteer for the American Red Cross, providing support for men and women, particularly those who returned from service with disabilities. In the course of that work, he met Eleanor Roosevelt, who was just really taken by him and said, you could really do a lot for our boys coming back with disabilities. And through a conversation, he moved to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C., and ultimately got the rank of captain in the American Red Cross. And he was just transformational in helping veterans with service-connected disabilities transition to community life and civilian life. And he was successful on all fronts, but the sticking point was he could not help these individuals get back in the workforce. These were almost invariably the quote-unquote breadwinners of their family in a very traditional gender role structured household. And the same firms and companies that they worked at wouldn't consider bringing them back. And he was very frustrated at a certain point. Through Eleanor Roosevelt, she connected him with Bernard Baruch, all things Baruch today, the Secretary of Treasury, who said, as you said, Hank, why don't you just build it yourself? Create an enterprise, one run by and for people with disabilities. So he raised $38,000 to buy a garage in West Hempstead. He retrofitted it as a shop floor for manufacturing. He bid for military contracts for Grumman, General Dynamics, and General Electric, all of whom were manufacturing on Long Island. And within 5 years, he hired 300 people with disabilities who ran the enterprise from top to bottom, and they were grossing more than $1 million a year in sales. And so that was Abilities Incorporated. That's our founding, and that has really been the inspiration for all the other dimensions of our program, our Henry Viscardi School, our abilities programs that still focus on employment, but also independent living, and all of the work that we do around empowerment and consciousness raising. Through the museum, which is coming on board, we're now the owners of Able News.
Yes, I know.
Which is the newspaper definitively by and for people with disabilities in this region. All that inspired still by Dr. Viscardi.
Yeah. Gang, if there's something you want to fix, go make it, go build it, go. What stands out most for me in that story is grit, Dr. Viscardi's grit and determination. And the other part of it is relationships. You say Baruch, you say Mrs. Roosevelt. Yes, he bid on contracts and how to win those contracts. But like most things in life, it's who you're connected to, who's looking out, who are the relationships with. Not to say things were handed to him by any means, but it's that grit, that tenacity, and those connections that is really, in my opinion, what separates those who win from those who lay on the couch all day. You know what I'm saying, man?
He is the epitome of that principle at work.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
100% right.
I love that. Let's take a quick break. We're gonna come back. I want to talk programs and stuff like that. I want to understand programs, and then we get to what's upcoming. I can't tell you how excited I am about the museum situation. Like I want to know how I could be part of that and the whole thing. So let's split to a quick commercial break. We come back. What let's dive into, we have this, we have that, we have that, kind of like rapid fire, and then how somebody a family can get connected to services. How's that?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very good. You are welcome. We'll be right back.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the corporate cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Mel Tapes DeSange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers!
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 You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Static, join your boy in the attic, but don't physically show up at my porch. The attic is not that big of a place. It's when we say join me, it means show up and pay attention to the show. A couple things I want to point out, Chris. My cousin Linda Cunningham, she passed away about 12 years ago, and in Linda's memory, Linda had special needs cognitively and now we would say intellectual developmental disabilities. When Linda passed at 31, my cousins founded the Lindy Lou Foundation. So since then we've taken in and put right back out almost $900,000 to organizations. We have a big bowling event every year. We raise roughly 80 to 100 grand each year, and I just think about this because so much of the work that I get to do is partly connected to Lindy Lou and in memory and legacy of my cousin Linda. But I bring this up specifically because I'm on the board of Horseability because of Linda. I'm on the board of Spirit of Huntington Art Center because of Linda. It's how I met these people. And as you might know this in life, being, as you say, a couple more years older than I am, when you call someone, you have a check for them. It is a great way to make a friendship. People want to meet you when you tell them you have a check for them. Less so when you have an invoice for somebody, but I understand that difference really. But Michael Katakis, Spirit of Huntington, my friend Katie McGowan, Horseability, and so many others that we support, Christine Fitzpatrick at League of Yes. There's so many different organizations, but I bring it up to say, when I think about vocation and jobs and career for people, it is such a part of our identity in ways, right? And I was just pulling up the website, and I know vocation is so important to the Viscardi system as well. I always say when I think about it, that Spirit of Huntington it's about access, not ability, but it's about access or accessibility to jobs. And I know it because our marketing team who redid this logo and redid our website for Vanguard Benefits is a neurodiverse marketing team at Spirit of Huntington through the Artworks program. So I want to just set that up and sort of say to you, you know, we think about the life cycle from someone being a child and then coming through the system at Viscardi and go to higher ed, as you talked about with your relationship with John Kemp and all that sort of stuff. Look, can you talk to me about like, am I right? I'm a guy who wakes up every morning, and I don't say this as a joke at all. I wake up grateful that I have vision in my eyes and I have legs and I can walk and I have no mobility issues, right? John Kemp told me on this program that the majority of folks who are disabled will become disabled, are not born disabled, right? So I got to know every single day, I don't have any vision issues. I don't have any mobility issues. I am grateful for that. But I say it from somebody as not quote unquote in the community. Am I right about access?
You absolutely are. I think that when the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, was named appropriately because it sort of captures people with disabilities aspirations as Americans, right? It's called the Americans with Disabilities Act, Americans first, because first and foremost, people with disabilities are Americans with the same hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations as all other Americans. But the disability part with disabilities is important because increasingly they're fiercely proud of their identity as people with disabilities because it connects them to a community, the community that I described, that's quite literally remaking the face of contemporary American life and who we expect to encounter in the new American workforce. And increasingly, we're working to empower people with disabilities to take their rightful place in the new American workforce. You're right about how central work is to all of our identities, right? Like when somebody asks you, Tommy, who are you? You say, I'm the nonprofit sector connector. And that's certainly what you do, but it is who you are, right? It's so woven into your identity and the way that you understand the world around you. And that goes for all of us. And people with disabilities want that same opportunity. And when we summarily cut 2/3 of people with disabilities out of the workforce, we're not only denying them access to be economically self-sustaining and self-sufficient, but we cut them off from the opportunity to fully develop their sense of self. They're not given the same opportunity to answer the questions like you and I are fortunate to do. Somebody says, "Who are you?" I say, "I'm proud to be the CEO of the Viscardi Center." And people with disabilities want that same opportunity for self-actualization. And more than that, I feel like they deserve it.
I love that. Thank you so much. You know what's great about this program is like I know where we want to go, and and we get there. You know, like we did a prep call for, we ended up on the call maybe like 12, 15 minutes. It was, is chitter chatter. And then, Chris, here's how the show works in 30 seconds. And my point of saying that is this is so great. We're getting to everywhere we need to go from my perspective. That said, I want to make sure you get what you need to talk about as it relates to this network of organizations and what is available.
We really appreciate it. And just to talk a little bit about our programs, they're all geared towards, when it comes to abilities, to giving people with disabilities the opportunities and the skill they need to take their rightful place living lives fully included as leaders in their communities. And then beyond that, for pursuing their dreams by aspiring to employment and the remuneration and the self-actualization that provides. So we have an arc of career programs that range from skill assessment and career exploration all the way through connecting people with internships, working on preparing themselves as candidates for jobs so that they'll be competitive, including working on interview skills, helping them to navigate the tricky part about self-disclosure, their identity of people with disabilities, and the timing of all that, and assessing the risk reward of doing those things. When it comes to helping them through job development to get them placed in the place that will optimize their chances for success. With some individuals, job coaching to help provide them the scaffolding they need to have enduring careers at a place. So it's really a remarkable set of assets that really makes a pivotal difference in people with disabilities' efforts to pursue careers. You had mentioned people with intellectual disabilities, and we're really focused on supporting them in their aspirations to live fully included in their communities. And so we have a Rehabilitation Without Walls program, which is remarkable. It's based here at Viscardi, but more than 51% of their time each and every day is spent out in the community. It's almost like at homeroom here, where we do some development about the skills that they're going to build that day that will ultimately help them to live independent lives in the community. And then we go out into the world where they get to put them to work.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so great. And, you know, we're going to have you come back. We're going to have to do more stuff. You should just come on the show I do in the studio called Long Island Changemakers, because you certainly are a Long Island Changemaker. If somebody said they want to come for a visit, what do they do?
They can either email us at our website. You can find the email there, or call us. A number is also available on our website, www.viscardicenter.org. And we would love to have you in just to see all the dimensions of our remarkable campus and our remarkable facility, and find the program that might be right for you or someone you love.
I love that. I love that. The website is Viscardi, Viscardi center.org. The number 516-465-1400. 516-465-1400, and you can send an email to info@viscardicenter.org. And if you want to talk to me, the kid, apparently, as they call me behind my back, if you want to send me an email, it's Tommy D at philanthropyandfocus.com. You know, In Focus Productions, the whole thing. Got some exciting stuff coming up in the spring and into the summer. Dr. Rosa, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all the work you've done and continue to do. And I know it isn't just you. It's about the hundreds of people that serve with you on the front lines at Viscardi that are doing the great work. I mentioned Lauren Marzo. I think I did. I love Lauren. She's been a friend of mine for many years, handling development. And I mentioned Mike Caprera, Kim Brussel, and, you know, my very good friend Christine Deska and Frank Orzo have a great affiliation with your organization. So they always have great things to say. We're out of time, but that's how the show works. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kidd. Tommy D. It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you. You're a wonderful colleague and a terrific friend.
Right back at you. Right back at you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.